This is Sean Brisley. This is Dragonheart.
Yes, welcome to this week's Dragonheart. We were hoping to have both Bill and Che Long here today, but to cut a long story short, Che can't join us. See what I did there? That was pretty good. By my standards, it was really good. But luckily, Bill is still here. So hi, Bill. Good for you to join us.
Hi, thanks for having me, Mark. Always a pleasure to be involved in Dragonheart for the second time.
Nice one. Oh, don't worry, we'll put you off it. I mean, there's not much going on at the moment at the Racecourse, although we had some interesting news break this week that Dior Angus has had a contract extension. And well, it's interesting to see that he's going to be staying a bit longer with us, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's been an interesting reaction to the signing online. I think it's so in some quarters it's slightly unfair. I think transfer seasons are a bit of a difficult one for clubs in the modern age, aren't they? I think with the likes of FIFA career mode and Football Manager, people expect things to be done really quickly, and especially when you've got COVID situations going on, and clubs are now fearing that fringe players that they really don't want at the club are actually going to become valuable. It puts clubs like ours that are waiting for that domino effect at the top to allow their players to go. So we're probably in a similar situation. And I think actually, in fairness, Dior's got a lot to offer. He's played 26 games for us and scored 7 goals. That's not a bad return considering he's not an out-and-out striker. He can play on the wing. He can play that link-up sort of role. And like Parkinson said today, he's had injuries and illnesses. So we've got to give him a chance to get up to full fitness and prove his worth.
Well, exactly. But you raised an important point, I think. I think there has been some negative reaction, not I think to Angus himself, but to the fact that, like you say, that there's an assumption perhaps that we must be struggling to get our transfer targets if we are renewing the contract of an existing striker. And as you say, there are reasons why that could be the case, but I don't think this does prove that. I think in a way, the fans are worried because the club did some good PR. You know, fans were saying, have we got players lined up? Do we know who we'll go for? I think inevitably any well-run club does do that and has done that and does it constantly throughout the season. So you know full well who your targets are. But that doesn't mean you can land them straight away. And the club, I think, did the right thing in allaying those fears. Sean Harvey said on Dragonheart that, yes, we know players we're going after and we will be able to try and get that moving early January. And I think that was the right thing to do because it was honest and it let people understand how we're operating on a professional level. But the downside, maybe in a way, is now people are panicking, thinking, well, hang on, but the transfer window's, it's what, 2 weeks old and we're not moving quickly. So something's gone wrong. I don't think that's the case. Like you said, it takes 2 to tango. You've got to get the deal done. You can't just swoop and take players because we've said we're not paying silly prices. I can't help thinking it's just that we were always going to have to wait till the end of the transfer window because those clubs who, as you said, maybe are hanging on to players that they're scared now of letting go because they want to complete the season and they're worried about COVID, they'll still have to listen to a good offer because the other effect of COVID is financial. And, Mullen, Tozer, their clubs did not want to let them go, but ultimately we made a good offer, not a crazy offer, but a really good offer. And they had to accept, yeah, okay. So I think that, again, we'll get deals done more at the end of January, even if we know who we want right now, is my interpretation of it.
And I think as well that, the situation with the club is that there's going to be a lot of clubs at the moment that are playing brinkmanship. They're going to see if they can get an extra couple of thousand or shave a couple of thousand off a transfer. We're in a really healthy position in that we've got a fixture this weekend that we don't need any new players for, and we've had a couple of weeks where we haven't needed any new players in the building. So perhaps they've looked at it and thought, well, we can afford to wait and see these clubs actually eventually bite. It's a situation where I think patience really does pay off in the fact that you want to make these clubs sweat. We might have sent out a bit of, I mean, I've got absolutely no intel, but we might have sent a bit of interest over to a club and then said, oh, right, actually, we might wait. We've got other targets. And, you say that to a manager who then wants to get his own players in. You could shave 10 grand off a transfer. So I don't know. Maybe I'm playing Football Manager myself a little bit there, and there's not much in it. But I think it's going to be, recent years we've seen a lot of quiet January transfer windows compared to the Robinho days going to Man City. But this time, I think transfer deadline day across the footballing pyramid is going to be interesting.
I don't think you're being naive at all. I'd be astonished if we haven't done exactly that. It's just like you say, it's a negotiation. It's a dance.
Yeah.
And it's something which isn't easy to do. And no question, that's why the club have consistently said, again, Sean Harvey on this show, that we are not going to be paying silly prices, because all those other clubs will be thinking that we will. And if we make a good market value bid for a player, they'll think, okay, well, we'll hold on a bit then, because they got loads of money.
Yeah.
And they are right. We to be honest, at the moment, we could pay silly prices for players. We shouldn't, but we could. So I understand why teams are trying that on a bit. But I think it was always inevitably going to be near the end of the window where we got most of the deals done. And it's no coincidence that the 4 big deals we got from players who were regularly playing at higher levels than us were the last 4 deals of the summer window. It was harder to land those sorts of players.
Yeah. And I think on another point of view as well, in terms of transfers, you're now potentially convincing players to uproot their entire family during a global pandemic. Okay, we might not be in the same situation that we were last May or the May before or whatever, but there's a lot of uncertainty going around, and players might not want to move their family to different schools in a different area without a little bit of extra convincing. So I think I can understand the frustration. I'd be lying if I didn't say I was a little bit frustrated myself at times, but we've just got to have a bit of patience. If we're having this kind of conversation on February the 1st or whenever the deadline finishes, then maybe you got a bit more right to be frustrated.
Yeah, exactly. And if we look at those, I suppose, reasons for frustration, because, to be fair, I think they should be addressed, and there's legitimate logic behind it, even if it's not actually what's really happening. I mean, that concern that we're not going to add more strikers when we got Kwame Thomas added in, for example. I mean, on current season, you'd probably say that Ponticelli's ahead of Angus in the pecking order. He's not scored all that many, although he's got 3, but he's been getting game time and has been playing well. And also that Kwame Thomas pleasingly looks sharp since he's come back. And so you might argue that, both of them are above Angus in the pecking order. But like you said, Angus, to be fair, has been affected. He's not been available for a lot of those games. He's not been quite right for a lot of those games. And he has had some good games at the start of the season, especially when he played 4-2-3-1. And he was in his zone up front. He had good movement, making the space for Mullen, breaking in behind. He had some good games, but that was when the injuries and illness kicked in.
Yeah. And it's a 1-year extension. So even if you were to look at it like you don't really want Angus to be here, which I personally do, I think it's a good thing that we've given him an extra year on his contract. It's not our money anymore. We're not owned by the trust. It's not you putting the pounds in that's going to make a huge difference. We've got TikTok deals. We've got all this going on. We don't really need to worry too much about the pennies. If Phil Parkinson thinks he can do a job for another year, great. Let's sign him up.
And also, surely inevitably part of the plan is we'll have more depth to our squad. We have more money to spend. We have more depth to our squad. You look at not having a reserve team, for example. Well, if we were going to try and do something like that, we need more players. I don't mean we have an overstuffed, bloated squad. Referring back to what you're saying about Football Manager, it's very hard to resist once you get a bit of money in Football Manager to not have a 40-man squad that then drives you to extinction. But
like something in the NFL, an attack team and a defending team.
Right, yeah. But having said that, it does make sense to develop the depth in the squad. Angus is a good striker who's scored plenty of goals, who's played in the Football League. I think he's more of a squad member, frankly, than a first choice striker. but is he a bad bloke to have around? I mean, let's be honest, when Dean Keats brought him in, a lot of National League teams were saying, oh, look at that, they brought in Dior Angus. Oh, he's a good striker. I mean, just because we've brought in the likes of Paul Mullen doesn't mean he's not a good striker. It's just he hasn't got the continuity really this year, has he?
No, agreed. And we won't all be saying this at the end of the season if he provides the winning goal to get us up, will we? So let's just see how he does, and hopefully it's not the end of the world keeping a player who's used to the club at the club.
Absolutely, it's not the reason to panic, I think, that everybody's talking about, is it? No. We'll take a break in a moment, and after that, we'll hear from Russell Penn, a really interesting character, and a bit of an exclusive for us, of course, an ex-Wrexham player who, although he was only with us about 3 months, made a big impression on the club. He speaks fascinatingly about the circumstances surrounding him leaving Wrexham, but also, like I say, a bit of a scoop, because he's the man in the headlines now. He's the manager as well at the moment of Kidderminster Harriers. He's a club legend there, and he further embellished that last Saturday because they knocked Reading out of the FA Cup. They got West Ham in the next round. He's the man of the moment. And so after the break, we'll hear from Russell Penn.
This is Wrexham's Heartbeat. This is Calon FM.
Well, Russell, thank you so much for joining us. And it would be crazy if I didn't start off by saying congratulations, because that win last weekend, that was fantastic. That was.
No, thanks, Mark, and thanks for having me on, mate. Do you know what? First and foremost, I have more media output with Wrexham fans and Wrexham reporters than any other club I've been at, and I was only there for 3 to 4 months. I think it just shows the magnitude of the football club, to be honest. Going away from that, thank you very much. Crazy weekend, to be honest. Bit surreal. I honestly don't think it's sunk in yet.
Yeah.
But ask me that in 3 weeks' time when we've got West Ham at home.
And I've got to say, you've taken that giant killing tradition well from Wrexham. You know how to do it properly. Let them go ahead first, build up the tension, and then bang, bang, couple of late ones. I mean, that's how you do an upset, isn't it? Brilliant, that was.
Yeah, it was. Listen, I think it was a great time to play Reading, a club in a bit of disarray at the moment, on and off the field. They rested a couple of big players, your Andy Carrolls and your Scott Dans, Junior Hoylets, and we thought, you know what, let's stay in the game and see where it takes us. And as the game went on, we got stronger and stronger.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what Agbara Soup does for you. Although it doesn't exist anymore, does it? So I shouldn't say
it doesn't exist anymore. No, but this plug for the caterers. There's some good food there now.
Oh, brilliant! So I must tell you, just my one big brag is that I completed the Ironman challenge at a Wrexham game at Kidderminster once of both the Agbara soup and the Agbara pie. I've never felt more alive, I'm telling you. Or more
Brilliant.
heavy.
Brilliant.
And then, like you say, West Ham to come. I mean, it must be great for you. I mean, you got a lot of experience in the game, but it's still fairly early days as a manager, and to have that opportunity to be looking at a club like that, planning a game against a club like that, having lots more info and data about an opponent in a way to look at, that must be a really pleasing challenge.
It's so exciting. Yeah, the thing for us, Mark, we've got 6 league games in the meantime in 3 weeks, so our eyes are firmly on the league. Yeah. But what a tie to look forward to in 3 weeks' time. It's funny because I try to get to a couple of games every week, and I ask the secretary, can you get me a game at Kettering and Alfreton? We're going to West Ham Leeds on Sunday, which is just brilliant. And it is surreal.
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. Well, we'll be keeping an eye out for you. Wrexham fans have got a bit of a soft spot for Kidderminster, born out of rivalry. And so, we'll be.
Why is that, Mark? Because a lot of people say that. Why is that?
I think I'm not 100. I think it's close enough for it to feel like a local game.
Yes, yeah,
but it's not nasty.
Yeah.
So when we play Chester or Shrewsbury or Tranmere, it can be really unpleasant. But Kidderminster feels a bit more like it's got an atmosphere. Especially going to Kidderminster. If I'm honest with you, I think Kidderminster coming to Wrexham. We've had some big games, like with the playoff semi-final, so that felt massive. But it's more. I think a lot of it is it's a good day out.
Yeah,
and I think that affects fans' ideas of a fixture and a team. Then Kidderminster have always against us played good football, and that so tends to lead to good games. Weird stuff happens when we play you, like the ghost goal.
The hole in the goal.
That's it, yeah. So, weird stuff like that. I do also think, and I'm going to get a bit sad now, so I apologise, but, there's more to football than just a game for the fans. And I think the whole thing, like, the Agbara Soup, things like that, an awful lot of football league clubs, lower division football league clubs, have got nice new grounds that look exactly the same as all the other nice little new grounds, and there's no real character. And then you go to the National League, and don't get me wrong, Wrexham have been there too long and we want to get out. But it has been a real pleasure going to actual proper sort of community-based clubs who do things their way. So, I mean, as you can see from the state of me, the food is really good in away games in the National League. It's not all half-frozen curry pies that's the same everywhere. I mean, Kidderminster was always the very best. But it's all those nice little local things that you don't see so much in clubs that maybe see themselves as slightly bigger, but actually in many ways offer less to the fan when you go to see them.
Yeah, for sure. There's also a lot of good players and good people who've played for both as well.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
The big man, Mark Carrington, who I speak to regularly, Martin Riley, Keatsy, I could name loads. There is a little tie there, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, as well. I mean, last week actually, I had on as a guest Josh Gowling, who of course is a great player for Kidderminster. Partly because, again, Wrexham fans always remembered him as playing well against us, and I just thought it'd be quite interesting to talk about him both from a sort of young manager point of view, but also from a, that he's a player people noticed. They'd always say, "Oh, buy him! We need to buy him." Every time there's a big game. Plus, he played in the ghost goal game and things like that, so we could have a laugh about that. But but you're saying about the link. Thank you for doing my link-in for me as well. It's very nice. Of course, Mark Carrington is with you now. I mean, that's a cracking signing now, I've got to say.
Well, I spoke to Cara in the summer a couple of times. It helped big time that I played with him at Wrexham. We had a really good relationship, even though I was only there for 3 months. But he's a good man, and first and foremost, we sign good people here. And he was one that jumped out the box. I thought, right, if I can get 1 year out of him, fantastic. Bloody hell, I think he's got 3 more years in the legs the way he's playing. He's been unbelievable for us this season. I think he's really jumped on board on what we're doing. He hasn't been bitter about the whole Wrexham situation. He did his time there, and now he's up for a new challenge. We're not a million miles away from his house, and him and his family have really jumped on board.
Oh, unsurprisingly, I've got to say, he's a guy who at Wrexham would get involved with the club. His wife's on Twitter as well, would be a very positive presence. In some ways, he was a bit unfortunate in that he's so flexible at Wrexham, I think. He would be thrown to
sometimes it becomes a negative, Mark, because you don't really nail down a spot. I've only played him centre mid here, and okay, albeit we're a level below, but he's bossed it, and he's been fit for every game. He got suspended at the start of the season, got a straight red card, and I thought, oh, here we go, legs are going late with a tackle, but no, he bounced back superbly. And
he scored that worldie as well, didn't he?
Scored a worldie. He scored last night as well, Mark, which was great.
Beg your pardon. Consistent.
So, fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, last season, I've got to say, he was injured for like the first half of the season. And you worried then that, obviously we were going to have a rehaul of the squad last summer and he'd have trouble getting a contract. I thought once he came back, though, his fitness was terrific and he was playing as a centre-back, which is certainly not his strongest position, and he was impeccable. He was bringing the ball out because it was a back three. He was perfect, obviously, but also defensively. When he started off as a centre-back, I remember Danny Rice really being cute and taking advantage of him because he knew him and he knew that he wouldn't be able physically perhaps to deal with Danny Wright being Danny Wright. But when he was last season, he was spot on. You know, defensively as well, in terms of taking on big centre forwards. They weren't targeting him at all. He's just such a brilliant professional. It's fantastic to know that he's doing well for you. Well, Russ, I mean, the main reason I got in touch was, of course, your time at Wrexham, which I thought was really interesting. I mean, Keatsy had come in as a manager halfway through the season. I'm not expecting you to necessarily comment on this, but he inherited a very weak squad, a genuine lack of quality in it, but also of experience at that level. And he did an amazing job of rehauling it, because we could easily have gone down. And one of the key things it seemed to me that he did was bringing in players with nous and experience, like yourself, Faisal McLeod, James Jennings, players who knew their way around, who could fix a problem quickly. And you were a key part of that.
No, thanks very much. I think I was a Carlisle player originally, and I had a chat with Keith Curl on the morning, and he went, "Look, we're going to look to get you on loan to play games." And I said, "Look, I'm 31 now. I need to play football." I said, "We've had interest from Gateshead," because I was on loan at Gateshead 3 months prior, wasn't I?
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, okay, that's fine. We'll extend Gateshead." But then Dean Keats, who I didn't know personally, but obviously knew of him big time, respectfully, he rang me and said, "Do you want to come to Wrexham?" And I thought, "Oh, game changer straight away." I thought, right, okay. Logistically, he wasn't very good, because I was living in York at the time. He just said, "We've got accommodation. We could sort you out to the end of the season. Let's do it." And it wasn't a loan. I cancelled my contract at Carlisle, got a pay up, and Wrexham offered me my services till the end of the season, and I just jumped at it, Mark. And it was the best thing I did. I haven't got a lot of regrets in football. My biggest regret was not signing on at the end of the season for another year or two. But for family situations, which we'll go over after, it just couldn't be possible.
Yeah.
But really, really, really enjoyed my time. In terms of recruiting, yes, I know what mess they were in. And yeah, like you said, me, Jennings, Ollie Shenton as well.
Yeah.
Matumba Masanka, who come in, bit of energy. I thought the squad for the end of the season was a nice tight-knit squad. Rooney we had for a couple of months before he went to Guisey, which was really weird.
Yeah.
Anthony Barry, Isel McLeod. So really enjoyed Curtis Tilton, Martin Riley. It was great.
Yeah, by the end of that season, it had pulled together really nicely, hadn't it? And the mess it was before you guys came in, it was really hard to believe we'd made such a big transition that season. And he built well on it in that summer too. I always remember one of your early matches was one of the most scandalous refereeing decisions I've seen in a Wrexham game in the National League, and that's saying something, was they gave a penalty against you at Chester, which I thought was an absolute disgrace. The guy just ran into you. I mean, it was I remember a fantastic atmosphere in that game, and the team, I thought, comfortable in that game, and that decision just robbed us. It was astonishing.
Yeah, I remember. Who told me now? I think Andy, the assistant manager, said, "Look, you played in local derbies, but you won't ever get anything like this." And what an atmosphere! We took the lead, didn't we? And then I was chasing back James Allaby, I think. Yeah. And he fell over. I thought, can't pay for that, but because the emotion of the game, I think the ref jumped at it, and we drew the game 1-1, didn't we?
That's right. Yeah. Got nasty as a punch up at the end and everything. A proper derby, proper Wrexham.
Yeah, I don't mind punch-ups, mate. That's fine by me. I don't mind. And
there were other. This was in a way the other memorable game I remember was going down to York and winning, which was obviously Wrexham's old manager Gary Mills was there, and young lads like Leo Smith scoring in that match. And again, the big, we're down the bottom of the National League. But I remember the away support we had in games like that at York was unbelievable. Going to the game, the amount of people on the trains, the amount of people in the city, it must be, good to see that when the club's got its back against the wall, but still that sort of passion is there.
Yeah, I think that game was bittersweet for me because obviously I was at York 4 years prior to that season, and I had a great time. I was living there, and we lived there for 6 years, so I had a lot of friends all sitting in the Wrexham end from York, and I think that concreted my desire to stay at Wrexham after that game. The fans, the performance we put in, I knew what Keatsy was going to do the year after, because he told me privately that, you know, he was only going to keep a couple on and we were going to recruit really well, which he did, by the way. Without me, I went to Gateshead, but he recruited really well, your Manny Smiths and all those players. And I thought, right, this is for me now. Love the club. They took an instant liking to me, and vice versa, and I was really happy.
But at the end of the season, of course, you did move on, which, like as you were just saying before, was a very difficult decision.
Yeah, it was. We played Solihull on the Saturday. Do you remember, away? And we took a good crowd. And my father-in-law took his own life on the night before. And my missus is obviously, she's open about it now, so she doesn't mind me telling people because it's out there. But she was on her own in York with the kids, and there was a month left of the season, and it was just up and down, and it just wasn't the right time. I told Keatsy. Keatsy was absolutely fantastic, by the way, for the next couple of weeks. And it just fell at the wrong time, which, looking back now, it shouldn't have really changed my decision. And my wife said it shouldn't have changed the decision, but it naturally did. Because I had to be around everybody. The family was up and down from Birmingham to York to Wrexham, and so I just wanted to make it easier for everybody. That was the reason. I regret it, but it is what it is.
You can only make decisions at the time, and goodness me, that's an admirable reason to make that decision as well. To be fair to you, so I think people sometimes forget that football players are people in a way. It's almost like everybody in their heads playing Football Manager, and they're not real people. They're handling almost, but that's totally understandable, of course. That next season we were strong, and Dean left near the end of the season when we were in a good position. But it doesn't surprise me to hear you speaking highly of him, because he came back in and did another good job a year later. He's a real. Something I like about him, he's a proper sort of football man in the sense. I think he speaks the language of football, and other players really respect him, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I know we made decisions in the year, and some people weren't happy with it and jumping ship and whatever. But you've got to do what you've got to do. Managers, there's only one of them at the football club, and you've got to do what's right for yourself first and your family. And you can only reflect on it when it's all gone. Yeah. And you're going with, and you think, right, okay, like I've just said there, I've regretted not signing for Wrexham, but I only realised that probably 3 or 4 years down the line. Yeah. So, it's one of them situations. I thought when I left and I signed for Gateshead, knowing Manny Smith was there, and then he went the other way within a day, and I was gutted. I went, Manny, what are you doing? I've just signed. I'm going back to Wrexham, and then you were signing good player after good player, and I thought, bloody hell, this is some squad here. I could have been a part of this. Yeah. But anyway, it is what it was, and the rest is history.
I always remember Manny going back that season. No. Was that a season? It would have been. Oh no, I beg your pardon. I'm just talking absolute rubbish. I remember Manny playing at Gateshead and getting a broom to tidy up the changing room afterwards. I'd never seen a professional do that. I was stopping. Usually, as you know better than me, changing rooms are like war zones after a match, aren't they? Yeah. And he was there with a broom cleaning up. So
Manny's the lad I always speak to still. He's from up the road by me in Birmingham. We know a lot of mutual friends, and he's living the life in France now, isn't he? So,
is he? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. He lives in a little village outside Paris now with his wife and 2 children, and he's loving life.
I'll have to get in touch with him to practice my French on him.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant! It's obviously the club's made an impression on you as well. You must be pleased to see this investment coming into the club now, which does seem phenomenal. And I'm a cynic. I worry about the wrong people buying a club. I was dead set against us going out of fan ownership until I saw exactly the caliber of the people and what their intentions were. I got no worries about their intentions at all. It must be nice to see us getting a bit of cash and a bit of fantasy, if you like, brought into the club.
Yeah, I think if there's any club that I'd wish it for, it was Wrexham. I think you've gone through some real tough times. And it's always got to be tough with the way it's been owned in the past few years, because it is a massive club. Everyone, always jumps on the history of Wrexham. But it is what it is. It's history for a reason. It's gone, it's done, and you want to bring the good times back. But you know what, as well, you're in a league now when there's bloody 4 other clubs doing the same thing, near enough. Okay? And it's, again, they all want the same. And it doesn't make it any easier. And I just hope Wrexham are at the top of the park come the end of the season.
Yeah. Oh, well, you and me both, believe you me. Yeah. It is
I do
tough.
believe, Mark, if you do make the one step, you will go again and again, because you've got the infrastructure. You won't come back down. And if Salford can do it through the leagues with what they've got, Wrexham's 10 times that.
Yeah, and also, I mean, the trust owners felt that the difficulty was getting out of the National League, even though obviously they had much more tighter budgets to work with. They felt that once they got through the National League, their budget would allow them to bounce up higher and higher. So, yeah, it's a time of optimism. I've got to ask you, I'll let you go in a moment, but before I do, I've got to ask you, you played one of the weirdest Wrexham games. I think the 4-3 at Bromley, right at the end of your time with us, where we have to sub a player, Ollie Marks, because of sunstroke, which I'd never seen before, where we've got Tumba Masanka coming off the bench and scoring a couple of goals. By the way, he did the same the next season. And so his career record is basically, across his whole career, he scored about 12 goals at a rate of about 1 goal every 12 matches. But against Bromley, he scored 4 goals at a rate of 1 every 5 minutes. He's unbelievable. Somehow we managed to go miles behind, bring it back and still lose it. And just to rub it all in, Bromley had a trainee cameraman who forgot to press record, believe it or not. So he stood there following the ball, thinking he was filming the whole match, and he'd filmed nothing. I mean, I just love that football. From a fan's point of view, a game like that is a dream come true. It's just crazy in every element. When you're playing, do you sort of think, what the hell's going on here?
Oh God, you have many of them occasions, mate, and you think, God, no one will believe what I'm going to tell them tonight, and they don't believe you.
Yeah.
That's why football is such a unique sport. What goes in the changing room stays in the changing rooms, because no one understands, honestly. Even fans sometimes, they would never believe what would happen inside on the pitch in the changing room, what's really said. But you've just reminded me of that game. I do remember, because I remember the big centre forward, Jordan. I don't know his surname. He went to Scotland.
Oh, Jordan White.
Jordan White. He played centre half for the last 5 games. Because we were reshuffling everything, and Keatsy just wanted to get to the end of the season without being humiliated. We had been players leaving left, right, centre. People wanted to know about the contracts. Keatsy was saying, no, we're not signing you up. So people weren't playing. So we were really a makeshift squad coming the end of the season. I think come the end of the season, he only wanted to keep me and Dunny, the goalkeeper. I know he re-signed James Jennings, but it was literally me and Dunny. Curtis Tilt was going into the league with, who did he sign for now?
Horace Green, was that?
Horace Green. Rooney obviously left, and then everybody else he released.
Yeah, it was a game that fitted the craziness of the situation, wasn't it? Really, but I think what Dean was doing was organised chaos. I think on that pitch, it was disorganised chaos.
And you know what? It's a tough time to be a manager in them situations. Because the players at the back of their mind know they're probably not going to be here next season, but you still want to put in performance. Keatsy can't say what he's going to do, but he knows everybody knows. And it was tough. And I remember him having a couple of conversations with me saying, this is where we're going. And I had to keep my mouth shut as well. And it wasn't nice, really, the last month. But you've got to do that sometimes to kind of have an overhaul of the club.
Yeah, exactly. And to be fair, he did it extremely well. The way they were set up by the next season was great. Honestly, Russ, I'll let you get on with your day. I've got to say, firstly, it's an honour and a pleasure to speak to you. You've all, in that short time, you were one of my favourite players of Wrexham, because it's your smartness on the ball, your awareness of what was required, and the way that you and other players, but you epitomised it, brought professionalism, and what Dean wanted into the team was crucial. And also, I just want to say the best of luck against West Ham. Look, we've beaten West Ham. They're nothing. You'll be fine.
I know you're
fine.
right.
It's almost a
Can I
buy.
just say one thing?
Yeah.
Can I just say one thing, please? Yeah. I think even though I enjoyed my time at Wrexham, it ended my career there, because when I went on the first day and Keatsy showed me around the place, he went, right, we're going to play a two-man midfield, you and Anthony Barry. I said, yeah, fine, that's great. He showed me around the pitch, the biggest pitch I've played on, in a two-man midfield. And every home game I was dreaded, because I was doing about 13k. I was 32, and it comes to the summer and my legs were just shot, and I just thought, this is ending me, this has.
Yeah.
But no, all good, mate.
Should have had a nice cozy sitting job. Player free, and you can just sit behind them and
exactly. I wanted a four-man midfield, never mind a two.
Brilliant. Oh well, honestly, it's been a privilege talking to you. It genuinely has, Russell. Honestly, you're fantastic. And
thanks, mate.
Give West Ham one from us, okay?
I will do, mate. And listen, mate, we'll keep in touch.
Smashing. We'll do well.
All right then, Mark.
Before the semi-final, we'll have to catch up again.
Hey, I like it. Yeah, good man. Good man.
Nice.
Wish you all the best for the season, Mark.
Oh, thanks very much. Cheers, Russell. Thanks.
I'm Liam McLindon, and this is Dragonheart.
Yes, Russell Penn, an absolute pleasure to get in touch with. Lovely bloke, and a crucial player for Wrexham. If he and other experienced players hadn't come in to rescue that season, a series of really astute signings by Dean Keats, we could have dropped down easily to the National League North. We mustn't forget that Gary Mills squad at the start of the season. Oh, it stank the place out pretty badly, to be honest, Bill, didn't it?
It did, yeah. I remember going to a pre-season friendly with my mate Ryan Hayes. Shout out Ryan if you're listening. In Hyde, and I don't tend to go to. I've not been to many pre-season away friendlies, but we were so intrigued by that particular squad because it could have gone either way. It's like, oh, there's all these names. Gary Mills signed a lot of good players the season before. You had Sean Newton was half decent, Dom Vos, Adriano Moke, a few other players in the squad, and you thought maybe he's unearthed a couple of gems there, and I think he'd unearthed a couple of pieces of coal instead of gems, didn't he, really?
Yes.
Although coal did have use, and I'm not sure some of those players, if I'm not pulling punches, had as much use as a lit fire.
That's very true, actually. Yeah, he'd unearthed some coprolites, archaeology fans, as a fossilized dinosaur poo for you.
That's a lovely crossover, Wrexham and archaeology fans.
Yeah,
the Venn diagram for that must be quite small, mustn't it?
Yeah, you'd think so, but actually, yeah, you would think so. Absolutely, it's more of a Lyme Regis Villa thing, that, isn't it? I mean, yes, I mean that's exactly right. Because we brought. It just made no sense. I remember the same as you watching pre-season friendlies and just thinking, what is this? We brought in lots of lower division players who'd never played at our level. And don't get me wrong, I mean, Carl Connolly was that. Lee Trundle was that. So I'm not saying you can't go down and find a gem, as you put it. You absolutely can. But a punt like that is fine. But when your whole squad pretty much consists of that, you're either an absolutely golden manager or something's gone hideously wrong, and it was the latter. I mean,
I think as well, I wonder if any of those players that were in that team would have actually gone on to have done something if they'd have been surrounded by experienced players. Yeah. I'm not saying, they clearly weren't destined for the Premier League, but there's players that maybe could have done a job that ultimately didn't do a very good job, did they?
Absolutely right. It was the amalgamation of all those punts, if you like, rather than there were no safe bets, or hardly any. Even the sort of players who on paper were good. Anthony Barry had some fitness issues and was getting a bit older. Good player, but wasn't the player he was when we first signed him. You remember when we signed him and then he left straight away. Rooney had actually had a trial with Wrexham and not been taken up years previously. And I think Rooney's a very, very good player, but I think you have to use him in the correct way. And I'm not sure we did until Keats came in. And then, I think that's it's a fascinating subject, that actually. Players who in different circumstances would have succeeded. When you see like the team that dropped out of the Football League, some of those players didn't get much of a chance to show what they could do. And when they did, it was alongside players who weren't much good. And you think, what if they'd been in a strong side? And I think, right, okay, there's I'm gonna make a fool of myself now. I think there's an interesting illustration of that. I remember, watching Wrexham playing Solihull, first home game of that season. We scrape a 1-0 win because Mark Carrington, one of the good players, scores in the very last minute. We bring Naughty on. And I had my doubts looking at him pre-season. And he was awful. And he continued to be awful. And I declared that I felt he was the worst player I'd ever seen play for Wrexham. Now, I'm not stepping back from that because his performances for us really were sub-professional football standard in my eyes. However, he went on to have a very good National League career. And again, you just think the reason he did well, in the bottom half of the table, but the reason he did well was because he was playing for teams that suited his style, i.e. he was quite physical, he wasn't very skillful, but he could do a job of work. So he played for long ball teams, or at Dover, most notably. He played for a team that gave him very clear instructions. They played man-to-man marking, which, the extent to which they did that was really rare in modern football. But I guess you're giving them a very simple instruction. You are a destroyer. There's their good midfielder. Stay with him. Fight with him. End of. Ball comes near him. You're by him. You fight him for the ball. And he did a very good job for them in that limited way. So, smart use of players, because you often felt that season there wasn't much of a game plan. We chopped and changed formations and approaches. I think we did this previous season. Maybe players would have had a better chance. I don't think Naughty could have got any higher. But say Jordan Weiss, who was very ill and was unlucky, but he finished the season scoring goals. Players like that may well have, had something about them.
Yeah, perhaps that's something for another pod, Mark. The what could have been 11.
Oh yes. Oh, we got next week's sources.
Sorry. It was a weird time, wasn't it? And I think that season kind of changes a lot of people's perception of Gary Mills.
Yeah.
The first and second season were chalk and cheese. I mean, okay, the first season wasn't successful because we didn't get into the playoffs ultimately. But I remember we played Cheltenham in that first season and we absolutely battered them across the pitch. And, they ended up going up that year. And we played nice football with good players. But that second season, everybody remembers Gary Mills as being an absolutely awful manager for Wrexham, purely off how bad that second season was for him.
And I think the first season gave all the clues as well, though, in that.
Yeah, no doubt. But if he'd have been sacked at the end of that season, people might have looked back and thought, he could have done a job if he'd have stayed.
Didn't have the catastrophe. The second season was a genuine catastrophe, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. That first season started so well, and like you said before, we recruited for that season so well. We just had so many quality players, and we were adding them to the likes of Connor Jennings. And you just thought, right, we're laughing here. But once a couple of teams found us out, and I don't know how, no, I'm going to rephrase that. I think we had 2 games in a week away at Cheltenham and Lincoln. And they both played quite physical long ball games with big strikers, Danny Wright, Matt Reed. And we lost at Cheltenham and we drew at Lincoln. We were a bit lucky to draw at Lincoln. And I felt it was after that we stopped moving the ball around so nicely. Yeah. It was like a sort of reaction of, teams can rough us up. Okay, then and we changed to the point where we ended up having Mark Beck up front, genuine route one, heading it on for Caden Jackson, a player Gary Mills desperately tried to offload soon after he bought him. and ended up moving to the Football League because actually he was a good player, which again raises a lot of questions. But those 2 games, it was a massive overreaction. We played beautifully up to that point. We were well up at the top of the table. The Cheltenham game we lost, but we were robbed. We were winning 1-0. Cheltenham handled the ball on the line. The referee somehow missed it. It would have been a red card, a penalty to us, 2-0 up against 10 men. We'd have won that game.
That was another typical Wrexham on BT special, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right, yeah. And then we got done through a long ball that caught a defence out and a wonder goal. So, to me, that's not something to press the panic button over. We played well in that game and should have won it. The Lincoln game, Lincoln were long ball and we didn't cope well with it, but we still got a point out of it. We fought back well enough. So again, all right, we might have something to tinker with, but you'd have to press the panic button. But he did. And I think that willingness to just change it, it was like a sort of the Emperor's New Clothes where Gateshead played such beautiful football under him. It was so exciting to think we've got the non-league Guardiola coming to us. But then it turned out he must have just told them to go out there and play, lads, because he didn't have a philosophy. He didn't have an approach. And he would change. I mean, if you're going to recruit a team that plays tiki-taka, how the hell do you then justify playing long ball with the same squad? How?
It can't work. It doesn't work, does it?
And the fact is, he hadn't recruited to play tiki-taka. He just brought in some players. Then in the next summer, he brought in some more players. I mean, it summed it up for me when Curtis Tilt, we signed him, but he was suspended for the first 3 games of the season. Nothing wrong with that. But Mills said, I wanted to play 3 at the back, but we've only got 2 centre-backs. Well, we had no injuries. So if you want to play 3 at the back, why have you only bought 3 centre-backs? It doesn't work. There was no logic to putting that squad together. And then as well, Jalal and Dunn, 2 of the best goalkeepers in the division. We don't need both of them. We're not made of money. Either one of them is fine.
We are now.
Oh yeah, now. Absolutely. But why take a chunk of your wage on 2 senior goalkeepers? Crazy.
Yeah.
I believe Dunn was amenable, and actually it wasn't that bad a deal. But nonetheless, it was scattergun tactics. And then Keats comes in and he did the opposite. He got rid of a lot. He brought in players that were experienced, knew the way around the pitch. Penn was the obvious example of this. James Jennings, Isel McLeod, who only scored 1 goal up front, but he just brought a bit of intelligence and nous and know-how up front, and he worked well with other strikers, and a lot of the other strikers said how much they got out of training with him. You know, the smart signings like that, that just brought stability to the team. And Keats deserves a lot of credit for doing that and saving us, basically.
Yeah, and just to think where we'd be now if we'd actually gone down that season.
I mean, the National League North is a bottleneck, as Josh Cowling was saying last week. You know, it's very hard to get out of that. It's much stronger than the National League South, and it's the same as our league. 1 team goes up, then it's a playoffs. You could get stuck in that league like York have. Ooh, blinking heck. McElhenney and Reynolds wouldn't have come in if maybe they would have done, but they might not have done, thinking we've got to climb up 2 levels just to get in the Football League. So we owe Dean Keats, Russell Penn, and people like that a vote of thanks for turning around what could have been an absolute disaster.
Agreed. Yeah, and it's a funny situation when you look back. It's hard not to rewrite history, but I don't think there's too much that we're rewriting there, is there, with that team, because they were that awful.
Yeah, exactly. It was scary, wasn't it? Really scary.
Yeah.
And then, the way that Keats' first matches are against Stamford, and we draw away and lose at home because he hasn't got, at that point, any chance to change anything around. That was the level of squad he inherited. So, good job we survived that, I think, to be honest.
Very much so.
Well, let's move back to the present. After this, we'll have a chat about our FA Trophy match.
I'm Jake Hyde, and this is Dragonheart.
So we actually have some football to watch on Saturday, Bill. That's a bit of a treat, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and almost like a bit of a COVID throwback, back to streaming in the house with a couple of beverages. It's gonna be strange, isn't it? After getting used to going back to live football, I mean, I know you do the commentary yourself, Mark, but going back to no crowds for you, and then going back to not being there for the rest of us is going to be a bit of an odd one.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, because I see that Scotland have relaxed some of their restrictions on sport, and hopefully we'll be able to follow suit fairly soon. I guess we will take a financial hit over this. In fact, we might do a little bit better. There might be people who are willing to stream it, who are willing to come out on a cold day to watch Folkestone come to Wrexham. But it's a huge. I mean, it is a huge shame. I've got to be honest, I feel guilty. The actual experience of commentating on the games behind closed doors is good fun. I've said previously to Jay that you watch them on TV, games behind closed doors, and you feel detached from it, don't you? Somehow it's not quite the right. Whereas actually in the ground, it's a lot better than you might think, because there is atmosphere, because the players, the non-playing players, the coaches are making noise. So it actually does feel like a proper game. But it's just a huge shame people can't come. It's so exciting the way that our club's going. It's just a shame people can't come to watch it.
Yeah, definitely. To break the fourth wall a little bit, Mark, do you really even notice that there isn't a crowd there when you can hear the noise from the players and the managers and what have you, especially like in a game like the FA Trophy where there's not really going to be much chanting going on against Folkestone and Invicta? Is there? It's just going to be a bit of a family affair, really, more than an actual full-blooded home match.
I mean, to be honest with you, right? You're obviously aware that it's behind closed doors, but I mean, to be frank, I've commentated on games with very few people in. I mean, when we were playing in the Welsh Premier Cup, we got some tiny crowds. I've commentated on reserve games and things like that. So in a way, it doesn't feel completely weird, if that makes sense. Plus, I'm thinking this is the game. Which is I've got my sort of taking this seriously head on. I find friendlies weirder. Even if there's a big crowd, I find friendlies weirder because I automatically feel there's nothing to be learned from this. Or, no, that's not totally true. There's nothing riding on this. And some of these players could be better if it's competitive. So friendlies feel weirder. I like, players do well and you think, well, I want to acknowledge that, but I don't want to get too carried away. But so I don't feel that I don't find it that weird in a way. And like I said, I mean, to be frank, for an awful lot of lockdown, we had Sean Pearson about 10 rows in front of us. Believe me, that was an atmosphere, It was quite good, actually. They had Keats on the far side and they had Pearson in the Mould Road stand. And it was like having two managers. And Pearson was very, very loud. And there were games like the Eastleigh game when the referee gave a few decisions that didn't help us, shall we say. The noise in that ground, in some ways, was better than when you get a sort of slightly flat game with 4,000 people in it.
I can imagine.
If I remember, I may be wrong. I think I am wrong. There were some games where Jay Harris was injured as well. And Carrington, I don't think, played in that game. And the referee, he got some, I'm telling you. There'd be like players in front of us. There are some staff members who have to be there. And so they'd actually look at the game. So they'd also create a little bit of atmosphere, even if it's just responding to things happening on the pitch rather than no chanting. So you did fill it up. And because it's a big ground, it echoes around it a bit. So it actually felt like an atmosphere. I feel bad, like I say, I feel bad saying this. It's enjoyable being there. It's just not enjoyable knowing that there's lots of people who'd like to be there. But at least we're streaming it, which is good.
Yeah, and as someone who does sit at home, I'd rather the people who could go enjoy it than be there and be miserable, because at least somebody's enjoying it.
I mean, the thing is... Sorry, go on.
No, go on, sorry.
It is good we can stream it, at least.
Absolutely, yeah.
We mustn't get too used to that, because obviously when we play away games, they won't be allowed to be streamed. But at least we can stream our home games, and that's pleasing. We'll have to put them backwards like this, won't we? Because you can't broadcast between 3 and 5. But at least we can put something out there that's professional quality that people can watch. That's pleasing, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think weirdly, a game like this where it is, it's going to be not quite reserves, it's not going to be a full strength side. I think there's no reason why that can't be streamed. Anyway, even in normal circumstances, I think it would be good if these sort of games were able to be televised, because, like you say, 1,000 people show up to this match usually, but you give that access to people who I must admit, I don't go to all the cup games. I go to most of them, but not all of them. My mum doesn't go to any, and she goes to every home game when it's in the league. She just doesn't. It's just a free weekend if there's a cup game, but she might sit at home and watch it, and it's money for both clubs if there was access to that.
I mean, legally, we can't stream between 3 and 5. The National League, I assume, wouldn't allow us to stream under normal circumstances now.
No, of course. Yeah.
The FA Trophy, though, is a weird one. The rights to the FA Trophy, I think I'm right in saying, are not terribly clear. You may have noticed that we were able to publish the highlights of the previous round straight away, early as we could, whereas with the league games, you can't until midnight on Monday morning. So the FA are a bit more willing to sort of relax over the FA Trophy. Not the FA Cup. The FA Cup, they're very strict on. But the FA Trophy, they're quite relaxed over. So that could be something to investigate, I suppose. And like you say, it's nice. I like the fact it's 50-50. I like the fact folks are getting something from it. I think that's good. Yeah,
definitely. And it gives an opportunity to some of these clubs to make a little bit of money as well, doesn't it? It's just like what we'd be saying if we were going to play a team a league or two above us, that you get that bit of a trickle down economics coming in.
Yeah, they'll miss out on the fact that they'll get a cut of what will be a small crowd at the Racecourse, but would still be a crowd. So it's good that they get that. And I don't want to sound patronising about them, because although they are a couple of divisions below us, they are going well, aren't they? Second in the table, third top scorers. They've had a number of heavy wins at home and score. So, to be fair, they're going to come with momentum behind them and give us a good goal. So it should be an interesting time, to be honest, to watch on your TV screens.
Yes. Speaking of teams and people that may be streaming or not streaming in the future, what about our friends down the road?
Oh dear. Well, what can we say? They're,
I must be honest, right? I don't want to seem too gleeful. It's difficult to not find an element of humour in the situation, but most hard-working, honest Chester fans who go in, week out, are suffering just like we're going to be this weekend as well. So I'm not taking, if I do smirk and laugh, I'm not taking too much glee. It's just a bit of a bizarre situation, isn't it?
It makes me angry because I want to laugh, but I agree the actual, the fans are the ones who are paying the consequence, and it's a fan-run club. So obviously anything that affects them is a bad thing, I would argue. I was confused. Che showed me a website that I didn't follow it up. I must admit, so if I'm wrong, I apologise, but talking about them, they got a hospitality grant, I think, from Flintshire County Council.
Yeah, so I think I could be butchering this. I think he sent me the same thing, but they had a 25 grand hospitality grant because their club bar is situated in Wales, and I think I've read Chester fans on Twitter saying it was issued by Flintshire County Council, but it was a government grant from the UK that was passed to councils that then passed that on to the. So even if they'd have been in Cheshire, they'd have got it from Cheshire Council, but it does highlight that their ground is in Wales.
And they are aware of that.
Yeah, and they are aware of it. So
if you're making applications to the Welsh Council, can you have your cake and eat it? That's what I was wondering. But to be fair, like you say, it may be a distributory thing. Of course, when the government gives money to be distributed by the councils, that does mean that some people will get and some people not. You could argue someone else in Flintshire might have got that, but wow. Who cares?
Not for us to make that decision, is it, Mark? Fortunately,
it is not. No, absolutely. And there's Robert
I
Ryan.
must admit,
so go on.
I have had a bit of a laugh watching some of the Twitter threads going on with people on both sides going back and forth. I mean, you don't want to indulge too much poor behaviour, so to speak, but it has been relatively funny. get me entertained anyway.
Exactly. And as Rob and Ryan said, hopefully we'll never play them again. So, you know, it's all gravy, as they used to say about 5 years ago. Now, speaking of gravy, it feels like time for that mid-Friday evening meal that I specialise in. So probably time to wrap things up. Bill, an absolute pleasure, as always, to chat to you about footy. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thanks, everyone, for listening. This has been Dragonheart.